Sergeant Kai Tanaka squinted at the flickering display on his wrist terminal. It sputtered, displaying static in place of the usual star chart. He swore under his breath. Glitches were rare on Terran marine armor, but this one couldn't have come at a worse time. Kai and his squad were on a routine patrol of the Epsilon Eridani system, a sparsely populated region claimed by the Terran Alliance. It was supposed to be a milk run, but the malfunctioning terminal was gnawing at his instincts. Anyone else having issues? He growled into his comm, his voice echoing through the barren landscape of the uncharted moon they were scouting. Silence. Static choked the line. Kai cursed again. This wasn't just a glitch. It was a complete comms blackout. He signaled to his squad, Corporal Reyes and Privates Flores and Singh, to tighten their grips on their pulse rifles. Spread out, he ordered, his voice low. Stay alert. Something's off. They moved cautiously across the dusty plains, the twin suns of Epsilon Eridani casting long, distorted shadows. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the rhythmic crunch of their boots on the rocky surface. Suddenly, Flores, the youngest member of the squad, swore. He pointed to the horizon. A shimmering distortion pulsed in the distance, bending the light around it like a mirage. Kai raised his rifle, adrenaline surging through him. This wasn't natural. As they drew closer, the distortion solidified, revealing a colossal, metallic ring hovering impossibly above the moon's surface. It pulsed with an eerie blue light, emanating an energy signature unlike anything Kai had ever encountered in Alliance databases. "Oh, what the hell is that?" Reyes muttered, her voice laced with apprehension. Don't engage," Kai ordered, his grip tightening around his rifle. Report this back to base, if we can." He tapped his wrist terminal again, frustration gnawing at him. Still no signal. He glanced at his squad, their faces grim under their helmets, mirroring his own unease. The metallic ring pulsed once more, and then, with a deafening boom, a section of it opened, revealing a swirling vortex of energy within. A low hum emanated from the structure, vibrating through the ground and setting Kai's teeth on edge. Then, something emerged from the vortex. Kai squinted through the swirling vortex, trying to make out the shape of what emerged. It wasn't a ship, not in the traditional sense. It resembled a hulking, obsidian claw, dripping with a viscous, black liquid. Tendrils of dark energy crackled around it, reaching out like malevolent fingers. Panic clawed at Kai's throat. This wasn't some alien warship they could fight with their standard-issue pulse rifles. He slammed his thumb against the comm button on his wrist terminal, praying for a miracle. "A mayday, mayday, this is Sergeant Tanaka. We're under attack on Epsilon Eridani C-." The static cut him off, leaving him with a frustrated growl. "Sergeant," Reyes hissed, her voice tight, look." She pointed towards the metallic ring. More of the obsidian claws were emerging from the vortex, pouring out like a monstrous centipede. The humming intensified, resonating with a bone-deep thrum that vibrated through Kai's very core. Fear threatened to paralyze him, but years of training kicked in. He raised his rifle, aiming at the nearest claw. "Flores, on me. Cover fire." Flores, ever the sharpshooter, opened fire, a burst of green plasma erupting from her rifle. It struck the obsidian claw, leaving only a faint scorch mark. The alien structure seemed impervious to their weapons. The remaining members of his squad followed suit, their combined fire a desperate flicker against an encroaching darkness. But it was futile. The claws descended, impossibly fast, aiming for the soldiers. Kai squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for impact. But it never came. When he opened them again, his jaw dropped. A shimmering blue barrier had materialized around them, deflecting the onslaught of claws. The energy blasts from their weapons rebounded harmlessly off the barrier, shattering into shimmering motes of light. What the? Reyes stammered. Kai had no time to answer. The blue barrier pulsed once more, emitting a blinding flash of light. When their vision cleared, the metallic ring, the claws, the entire anomaly, all were gone. Only the desolate landscape of the moon remained, bathed in the harsh glow of the twin suns. The air crackled with a lingering energy, a chilling reminder of what had just transpired. Kai slumped to his knees, his body shaking with a mix of relief and terror. His comm terminal flickered back to life, displaying a familiar star chart. He took a shaky breath and keyed in a message. Mayday, this is Sergeant Tanaka. We're safe. But you need to see this. Epsilon Eridani, C1. Coordinates. His voice trailed off. He had a story to tell, a story that would challenge everything they thought they knew about the universe. The interrogation room felt sterile and cold, a stark contrast to the sun-baked plains of Epsilon Eridani C1. Sergeant Kai Tanaka sat rigidly in the metal chair, recounting the events for the third time. Across from him sat General Petrov, her face a mask of stoicism. You're telling me, Petrov finally spoke, her voice laced with disbelief, that a giant metal ring with claws just appeared out of nowhere? Kai nodded, frustration simmering beneath his stoic facade. Yes, General. And then it vanished, just like that. Petrov leaned back in her chair, steepling her fingers. And this blue barrier? You claim it saved you. That's exactly what I said, General. And you have no recording, no sensor data to corroborate this story? Kai slammed his fist on the table, the metal clanging under the force. The comm blackout, General. We couldn't send anything. Petrov's gaze narrowed. Kai knew she was well aware of the blackout. It had affected all Terran outposts within a certain radius of Epsilon Eridani C1. Sergeant, Petrov began, her voice softening slightly. I understand this is a lot to process. But what you're describing, it's highly improbable. Kai felt a surge of anger. Improbable? He'd stared death in the face, and she was calling it improbable? He opened his mouth to retort, but Petrov held up a hand. However, she continued, the blackout is undeniable. And something caused it. We'll be sending a scientific team to investigate the anomaly you reported. In the meantime, I suggest you get some rest. Kai stood, his body stiff. He knew this was far from over. The memory of the obsidian claws, the chilling hum of the anomaly, was burned into his mind. As he left the interrogation room, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. They had stumbled upon something far greater than they could ever imagine, and humanity was woefully unprepared. He had a story to tell, a story that could change everything. But would anyone listen? Weeks turned into months. The scientific expedition to Epsilon Eridani C1 returned empty-handed. No trace of the metallic ring, the claws, or the anomaly. Sergeant Kai Tanaka became a pariah within the Terran Alliance military. His story, deemed a fabrication brought on by battlefield stress, was met with skepticism and scorn. Discharged from active duty, Kai found himself ostracized, haunted by the memory of what he'd witnessed. He couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing, a threat far more significant than anyone was willing to acknowledge. One evening, while drowning his sorrows in a dingy bar on the outskirts of New Shanghai, a cloaked figure slid into the booth across from him. The figure emanated an unsettling aura, a subtle energy signature that sent shivers down Kai's spine. Sergeant Tanaka, the figure rasped, its voice distorted by a voice modulator. I believe you have a story to tell. Kai's heart hammered in his chest. This wasn't a coincidence. Who are you? Someone who knows what you saw on Epsilon Eridani C1, the figure replied, their voice a low hum. Someone who can help you understand. Kai hesitated, his mind a battlefield of suspicion and a desperate yearning for validation. Finally, he took a deep breath. All right, he said, his voice hoarse. Tell me what you know. The figure leaned closer, their words laced with a chilling urgency. The anomaly you encountered, they began, it wasn't an isolated event. There are others like it, scattered across the galaxy. They are doorways, Sergeant, portals to a dimension beyond our comprehension. And something is coming through. Kai listened, his skepticism slowly giving way to a cold dread. The figure spoke of ancient prophecies, of a galactic war that had raged for millennia, and of a malevolent force that sought to consume entire realities. They spoke of a resistance, a scattered alliance of beings fighting to hold the darkness at bay. And what role do I play in this? Kai finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. The figure smiled, a cold, unsettling sight. You, Sergeant, they said, may just be the key to unlocking a power humanity never knew it possessed. The revelation hung heavy in the air. Kai felt a surge of a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. He may have been ostracized, but now he knew the truth. And with that truth came a responsibility, a burden he couldn't ignore. What do I need to do? He asked, his voice firm with newfound resolve. The figure's smile widened. The first step, Sergeant, they said, is to believe. Years passed. Kai, ostracized by the military, but fueled by the cryptic encounter in the bar, dedicated himself to uncovering the truth. He delved into fringe science, ancient alien myths, and obscure academic journals, searching for any shred of evidence that corroborated his experience. He wasn't alone. A small network of believers, drawn to his story by whispers and intuition, formed around him. They called themselves the E-Watchers, their eyes fixed on the stars, waiting for the anomaly to reappear. One night, a frantic message crackled through their makeshift communication network. A lone outpost on the fringes of Terran space reported a similar anomaly, a pulsating ring hovering over a desolate asteroid belt. Kai's heart pounded. This was it. This was their chance. He rallied the Watchers, a ragtag group of ex-soldiers, scientists, and tech hackers. They pooled their resources, acquiring a heavily modified freighter and enough firepower to deter any curious pirates. The journey was fraught with danger. Terran patrols, suspicious of their unsanctioned mission, dogged their path. But fueled by a desperate hope, they pressed on. Finally, they reached the coordinates. The anomaly hung suspended in the void, mirroring Kai's terrifying vision from all those years ago. This time, they were prepared. The Watchers devised a plan, a daring gambit to unlock the secrets of the anomaly. Kai, armed with salvage technology and a surge of newfound courage, piloted a modified drone towards the ring. As the drone breached the barrier, the Watchers held their breath. The comms went dead, plunging them into a tense silence. Then, a surge of energy pulsed outwards from the anomaly, momentarily overloading their systems. When the energy subsided, a holographic projection materialized on the bridge of the freighter. It depicted a vast network of metallic rings, scattered across the galaxy like a celestial web. Within one of the rings, pulsating with a malevolent energy, was the image of the obsidian claws. And facing them, an armada of ships unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The Watchers stared, the weight of the revelation crushing down on them. They weren't alone in the universe, and a cosmic war was brewing on their doorstep. But within the projection, nestled amidst the enemy fleet, a single ship pulsed with a familiar blue light. The same blue light as the barrier that saved them on Epsilon Eridani C1. Kai felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. They weren't defenseless. There were others out there, fighting for the same cause. He turned to the Watchers, their faces etched with awe and determination. We may be small, he declared, his voice ringing with newfound conviction, but we are not alone. The fight starts now. The Watchers roared their approval. They were humanity's first line of defense, a ragtag group facing an unimaginable threat. But with a single spark of hope ignited, they were ready to defy the odds. The battle for humanity's future had begun.